This is Roger Stone for American Sovereign Bullion. Since 2020, the U.S. dollar has lost over 20% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to rise. Call 844-272-2428 or go to asbgold.com now to get your free gold and silver guide and learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver delivered to your door or held in a gold IRA today. So go to asbgold.com now. Don't wait for the markets to drop. That's asbgold.com.
Welcome to your personal briefing. The Full Court Press is on the air. Now, here's Sean Spicer.
Well, good Sunday morning. Welcome back to Full Court Press with Sean Spicer on WABC. Happy Easter. I hope you are having a great, blessed morning. Thank you for spending some time with us on this Easter morning. It's been an interesting show. We talked a little bit about Iran, then we talked about what's going on in the press with Commander Tim Parlatore. I want to get us a little bit focused on the election now. A young man by the name of Brilyn Hollyhand I met a few years ago. He's now the ripe old age of, I think, 19. He's got a brand new book out talking about how we can dialogue better. He was appointed to the RNC's committee to bring young people into the party. Brilyn, how are you? Good morning. Happy Easter.
Sean, good morning. Happy Easter to you and your awesome family. I so appreciate you having me, and I appreciate you endorsing the book as well. You're the first person to endorse the book, and it's already helping on the bestsellers list, so you're a rock star.
Oh, that's awesome. Let me ask you this. Trump did phenomenal with young men after in the last election. What was the reason that you put your finger on why?
It's really simple. The left, for decades, has had this monopoly on Gen Z, and they acted like they were entitled to our votes. Well, at the same time, they were lecturing us to sit down, to shut up by calling our masculinity toxic and calling us Hitler Juniors because we would wear a red MAGA hat. So at some point we woke up. At some point we smelt the roses and said these lies, these empty promises, we've been strung along for decades and been given nothing in return. Unfortunately, all the Democrats want is a voter base that's not going to push back. That's not going to call them out. They demand that they get illegals votes because they know they're going to get nothing back from those people that they're allowed in this country. They thought they could keep Gen Z silent and have their votes. And Sean, the opposite happened. We started speaking up. We started demanding actual change. And we saw the one guy that could bring change to this country, because he'd already done it before, was President Trump. President Trump won the young male vote in droves. Now, the one area we still have room for improvement is the young female vote. But I think a lot of change can come just because the exact same situation in the past few months. The left has tried to tell young female peers of mine that it is empowering and feminist of them to not have a family, to not get married, to not want to one day have that aspiration, that they should just focus on themselves, to be independent-minded. And that just same thing, just like calling our masculinity toxic, is going to backfire on the left.
By the way, you know why I think they do that with women? Every poll I see says married women vote more Republican, or become more conservative. I think once you have a kid, you realize the impact of policies in a different way. I think the left doesn't want them to get married because they realize that that's when they lose them. They can keep them single and bitter and with like 18 cats. No offense to cat ladies. It's funny because poll after poll, Brilyn, it's funny. I literally, every time I have a pollster on, we talk about the demographics, like where are who's doing, where's President Trump, and white women in particular. Go look at these rallies. Look at what's going on in Minnesota. Look at all these other things. You'll notice a preponderance of middle-aged white women. That's the issue. But I think the one thing that I was intrigued in your comment, and this goes along with your book about how you talk about make America talk again. I think one of the things that President Trump did wasn't just like when you describe the issue, I think of it a different way. He didn't just present policies. He went there. He met them where they were. He went on their podcast, not their podcast, but podcasts that they listened to. And so traditionally in a campaign, you go run your CNN, your Fox, ABC, NBC media ads. I think President Trump met voters where they were, especially young voters, and that made a difference.
You're exactly right. And you've noticed this. You've seen this from behind the scenes, kind of some inside baseball for you and your audience. On the very first day working for President Trump, they asked me how to get the youth votes. And I said, well, Mr. President, with all due respect, the days of taking out an ad in the back of the Sunday paper to whenever voters are over. You've got to go where Gen Z is, and that's online. And they said, well, he's already chronically online. Like, he tweets too much. What do you mean? And I said, well, posting in his own social media app is an echo chamber. Go to where Gen Z is. That's their TikTok For You page. That's their favorite video game streamers platform. Places where they're not looking for politics, but politics is going to come find them. That's how he won. He went on everybody's favorite podcast. He went on their For You page. But bigger than that, what you just said, he went to the college campuses. One of my favorite stories of President Trump, we walked into Bryant-Denny Stadium before one of the biggest SEC football games of the decade, where Bama played Georgia. They were number 1 and number 2. And it was this crazy game. And the a whole extra layer got added because Trump announced that he was going to show up. And he walked into that stadium with Hank Williams Jr. and Kid Rock and John Daly and stood next to me and threw out hot dogs in the student section to students. Everybody's going crazy. Everybody's freaking out because their president came and saw them and talked to them and listened to them directly. Kamala Harris lectured us through a phone screen. President Trump used social media, but he also went to the campuses. He made that connection, and that's why he won.
So what's a For You page? I'm showing my age.
For You page is like your timeline on social media. It shows you what is the algorithm shows for you.
So where do I see that?
It's like if you're on Twitter and you're just scrolling through your homepage, or if you're on Instagram and you're scrolling through Reels, it's naturally meant for you.
Okay, so in other words, it's that thing on the side that's serving you up ideas to look at. Okay, I thought there was something completely different. But you also said something that was interesting too that I didn't even think about, because all these kids now, not in the same way that I did growing up. Like I had an Atari growing up. You put a little thing in, you played the game, you pulled it out, you switched. If you wanted to play Pong, you put the Pong cartridge in and you played the game. Then if you wanted to play Space Invaders, you put the Space Invaders cartridge in, play that. You guys are all online now, and you mentioned meeting voters where they were in their video games. So you can literally run ads on video games.
No, and we did more than that. President Trump at one point was complaining that young people weren't watching his rallies. And I said, well, sir, people can't afford gas. They can barely afford rent. College students aren't paying a cable subscription on top of that. So you can go on Hannity show as much as you want. You can do as many primetime rallies as you want. Gen Z is just naturally not going to see it on primetime TV. But if you partner with some streaming platforms, when they log on at night to go play their favorite video game or watch their favorite YouTuber, you're natively going to be at the top of the homepage because you'll have the biggest attendance, and people can watch that. And I can't tell you the amount of people, when I went back to high school the next week for classes, that came up and they were like, could you believe Trump's rally last night? He was calling all these names and all these jokes, and like he actually had a plan for gas prices. These people didn't even know Trump was running for president the week before, but they went on to not watch a rally, to watch their favorite streamer, and they saw a video of Trump's rally on that video game website, and it worked.
So, Brilyn, again, you talk about making America talk again in your new book. The thing that frustrates the heck out of me, I got to be honest with you, like it's killing me. You and I sit around and have this conversation. Like, here's what he did well. He listened, and the guy's a businessman. So it's like it's literally metrics. Okay, who do I need to reach? How do I need to reach him? Okay, like he digests that stuff really easy because it's not like, to him it's business. It's like, tell me where the market is. Like, who are my buyers, right? Who are my customers? And I sat as a Virginia voter last year watching these knuckleheads run all of their ads and do nothing to reach out to influencers. And then here we are getting ready for the midterms, and I see the same playing happen again. Why is it that President Trump got it and I just don't see it? Or maybe I'm not seeing it, but I don't get the sense that members of the House and the Senate that are up are using the same playbook.
No, you're spot on. It is a problem, and it's not like something we could ignore. The simple answer to your question is, when I offered President Trump help, he happily took it and he listened to me. And he didn't be like, oh, this high school student has some ideas, let's entertain him and then chalk it up. He legitimately put people on the task of executing these ideas. When I meet with House members or senators that are in jeopardy in their seats and they're begging for help, and I give them ideas like start their TikTok account, like show behind the scenes of what they do daily, like film videos walking off the House floor and say, hey, this is what I accomplished for you this week. They think it's silly and stupid and they refuse to do it. They think they're above that. If the commander in chief of the United States can sit down with video game streamers and get back in office and it works successfully, the least you can do is film a selfie video. But these people don't want to do it. I offered to help some of the same races in Virginia that you're talking about. And they said that they wanted to put all of their fundraising into newspaper ads and TV ads. And how did that work out, Sean?
Believe me, and I'm with you. I could not believe, because Brilyn, I'm going to tell you the dirty little secret that I've been exposing now for the last year. Consultants don't make money off of ideas that people like me and you give them. There's no 15% commission off of reaching out to young people, going on podcasts, doing all the stuff that you said. They get 15%, 20% sometimes when they make a media buy. They don't get it when they talk to me and you. And so the consultants hate the idea because there's no ROI for them. If they were listening beyond the selfie videos, and I get that. I see like people like Mark Wayne Mullen. He clearly gets it. Eric Schmidt, senator from Missouri, he clearly gets it. Ron Johnson clearly gets it. There's a bunch that are doing this, but by and far, I think you're absolutely right. These guys think I'm too above doing this. But what issues, if they needed to talk about things that matter, like a lot of young people obviously didn't just think it was cool that the president talked to them, but he talked about issues that matter. So as we enter these midterms, what are the issues that they should be highlighting?
Sean, I spoke on 10 campuses last semester and did 10 separate debates all across the country, conservative campuses, liberal campuses, high economic campuses, low economic campuses. Every single stop, the number one issue that came up was students can't afford to buy a home when they graduate college. They can't afford to start a family.
I knew you'd say that. I knew it.
The number one thing.
And that's
so President Trump talked about that. He said he'll do an executive order, but it's got to expand upon that. Congress needs to reinforce it. They need to codify some stuff, and he needs to hit the trail. And I've said this to the president's team, and I think you'd agree. He needs to go to campuses, not do debates Charlie style, but book the basketball arena, pack the campus full of students, and say, here's the laundry list of accomplishments that I did for you, because this crazy novel I did, Sean, we have a president that actually did what he said he was going to do. Come and show his report card and say, this is what I did for you. And if you give me 2 more years, this is how I'm going to make housing prices come down.
Exactly. I mean, and I think the problem that I see right now is that a lot of these polls show that young men in particular were willing to give the president a chance, a shot. Hey, you're talking to us. You're singing our song. But now, as we head into the midterms, they're not as fired up. And there's some attrition and erosion among that group.
And I think it comes from people, when I look them in the eye at a debate, and I'm like, well, President Trump did this. And they'll go, but it was just an executive order. And to them, it's meaningless. It didn't do anything for their life. It's just a piece of paper that he signed with a fancy seal at the top. They want more out of Congress. So I think a lot of the frustration's at Trump, but it's really on Congress's lack of action. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with him, so they're putting the blame on him. They're saying, well, he should have his Republicans more in line. And Sean, you know how that works. It's not gonna be the easiest thing in the world. But I think if we expect to win the midterms for Congress, and Trump's going to help, Congress has to do their part. Republicans in Congress that we gave the chance of a majority to have to step up and say, Gen Z's demanding these things. President Trump's delivered on these things. Let's codify it so they actually see it happen in their lives.
Right. You wrote this book, Make America Talk Again. In the last minute and a half that we have, are you convinced America wants to talk again? Like, I'm not convinced. I think that's probably the right thing. What you're asking for is that we should communicate more. We should talk more. But I don't get the sense that people want to anymore. I feel like it's very tribal.
A few months ago, Sean, I would have agreed with you and said that they don't. But after Charlie's assassination, going to these campuses, having these debates with people, I've been with Trump on a campus. I've been to campuses myself for debates with Charlie. I've seen what it looks like. It's night and day difference. Like, every single stop was packed, from Harvard to Clemson to Alabama, places you expected and places you didn't expect it. People want to talk. And sometimes they want to scream and debate. But what I heard overwhelmingly, students would write 2 versions of every paper they turn in, when they believe in and when they're writing to appease their professor. And all they want to do is hear how they can finally stop tucking their tail and actually share their opinions. And Charlie inspired that, and that's why we wrote this book.
So it's interesting because I did, after I left the White House, now granted this is 2019, I probably did 20 stops, and it was scary, like how they didn't even want the existence on a campus. You think that there's more tolerance now?
There's definitely not more tolerance. There's more people wanting to make it happen. But the campuses are less tolerant than ever, and there's more protests than ever. And I didn't even realize how many death threats one person can get until I did this tour, just being honest with you.
No, I know it personally. I'm sorry you had to find that out yourself. Anyway, the book by Brilyn Hollyhand is Make America Talk Again. He obviously has been on these campuses. He's seen it firsthand. He understands what it's like. He has spoken to the president about how to reach out to young folks, which are part of that key winning coalition. Brilyn, happy Easter. Thanks for being with us. Good luck with the book.
Happy Easter, my friend. I greatly appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend.
You bet. All right, guys, thanks for spending part of your Easter with us here on WABC. This has been Full Court Press with Sean Spicer. As always, you can catch me every single day on my YouTube page, Sean M. Spicer. I do a live show every morning, 8:30 to 9:30, called The Huddle. And then again, every night, The Sean Spicer Show. As I mentioned a minute ago, the president has written the foreword for my brand new book, Trump 2.0. You can go on Amazon right now and order Trump 2.0. Thank you for being with us. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you back here next Sunday on Full Court Press with Sean Spicer.
Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
Think Verizon is expensive? Think again. Anyone can bring their AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today, and we'll give you a better deal. So bring us your bill. Walk in, run in, pogo stick in, teleport if you can. Ride on the back of a rollerblading yak or fly in on the wings of a majestic falcon. Any way you can, bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today, and we'll give you a better deal on the best network. Based on RootMetrics Best Overall Mobile Network Performance, U.S. Second Half 2025. All rights reserved. Must provide very recent postpaid consumer mobile bill in the name of the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.